Hello students, last video we discussed about how to create a Qt program using command line compiler. Today you are going to compile the program using a tool called Qtcreator, which is coming free. We can download it and use it. I will explain you how to create a button click using this. So this was the exact program which we were discussing in the last class, that you had a Q application and you have a Q widget and you're creating an object of the Q application, and this is where you creating a window of the Q widget, and you are able to set the methods or properties of this window. You are able to compile and get it. Now if you want to add a button, and suppose you want to add a button, and you want to click on that button, and when you click on that button, suppose you want some thing to happen in a graphical user interface, then how will you do that? That is, for example, let's say this is a window which is created out of a class called Q widget or something, and then this is a window, and this window is, let's say, having a button, and that button, when you click, let's say some message has to pop up. So that means you will need the entire library of this message, which is called a MsgBox in Qt. So you will see now how you can create this program using it, so called the Qtcreator. Qtcreator is a tool, as I said, is freely downloadable. So now let's go to the Linux machine where you are going to create this program. What you do is actually go to the applications, and you can go to so-called Qtcreator, and window opens up. When you open a window like this, whether it is Windows or Linux or whatever, because Qt is free for both, now you have to create a project first. So what you do is, I am going to create a project on Qt GUI, not on mobile Qt, not on Qt console or anything, Qt GUI application, and I choose that. After choosing, it is asking in which location you want to create this program. So what I am going to change is the directory in which I am going to, in the desktops, I am going to create this particular program in my own directory. So let me go to my directory, and I have, let's say, 5 Qtcreator. First Qtcreator example, this is the directory in which you are going to create this program, and I will give the name of the program as first, let's say our project as first. Now I say next. These are default things which you have to say next. And now what you're going to do is, actually you are going to create altogether a new class which are inherited from some base class called the QMain window, or you could also use QDialog or QWidget, but let's use QMain window, and you are creating a new class called main window, and it will have a main window.h file also, and whatever, these are all declarations will sit here, and the programs will sit in this .cpp, and this is the name of screen UI.ui. So I say finish. After you do this, actually what happens, you can see the structure. You have created a project called First Pro, and this is the screen. You go to edit, and then when you press here, you see this is what I said. Actually, this is where you declare. all the functions. I will come back to this a little later. And now everything begins with main.cpp. That is where. So the entire program looks very simple. Q application A, like I explained in the last class, Q application is a class and A is an object, and these are the arguments. And you are having your own class called main window W, which are inheriting some of the inbuilt resources of the Q widget, etc. of the Qt. So you are having your own, you can say your own class you are creating and an object also W, and you are just simply saying show. This is if you speak from the top level, this much only is the program. Now what all, when you create a class called my window and main window W, how do you see that M is capital, W is also capital in this, you should remember. So when I go into this, actually see that actually what it has done, it has automatically created a class called main window. M is capital, W is and it is W is also capital, and it is inheriting the public properties of something called a Q main window, and this is something which you have to write always. It has got private and public sections, and public is generally used for declaring the so-called the constructor. And see that actually here you can see the constructor is like main window and Q widget star parent, something like that. This is the constructor is this, and this is the declaration of that. So the declaration of that. So it is like when I taught you, if you had a student class, you would have said student constructor you used to create, but then you used to, let's say it is a constructor with arguments, then you would have passed let's say age star n or something like that. Same way you are creating, you are also in you are calling into this particular constructor some argument Q widget star parent, which is equal to 0, which it's all by default. You don't have to worry about this. So these are declarations actually, and where this particular program is sitting now is in the main.cpp. You can see that. So the declaration was in the main window.h, this declaration, and same thing, it is here, program is here. This much lines are already required actually to create a window. This is the destructor. You are deleting the UI and going away. That's all. Now, in order to now create, now if I execute this program, you can see that if I press this right arrow key, it executed and created a window. That much only it can do. Now, if I want to create a button inside this, what you do is actually go to this push button, like you go to this push button and take a button like, and you have to, now it's very tricky. This is where you have to listen very carefully. Now, when you click on this button, some message box has to come. Something is to display. Oh, someone clicked me, something like that. So for that, what you do is listen carefully. Go to this icon called Edit Slots. Edit Signals or Slot. Click on that and hold this push button and pull it down. When I pulled it down, one more time I can show you. Go to Edit Slot, hold this and pull it down. That means you are trying to say that when you click on this, you are trying to create when you click on this button, you are trying to create a function of your own. How to create a function of your own? Let's say edit, then I say slot. It is called, function is called slot now here. So I say, instead of slot one, I can say my function. I can say like, let's say my function. My function. Let's say my function. Create, and in the main function, you create the main function. You said OK. So he's saying when someone clicks on that button, you are calling this particular function. I said OK. So now also, now when you did this, actually all these things, now if I try to run this program, it is, same like nothing is there. When you click, nothing happens. Now you have to write something in the slot 1. So what all changes have happened in this? You can see that here this looks same. The H file didn't change. This also didn't change. But now I have to make some changes to it. So go to H file and go to the private section is there. You have to type in something called private slots. So I am typing private slots. You are creating a function called private slots, and in the private slots, sorry, I have put 2 brackets here. It's not required. So here you have to say void. You are creating a function called my function, right? My function it was. So you say it's a declaration of that function. That means I have created a function called main function. Now also when I execute this, you can see that nothing happens. So it's saying undefined reference. My function, my window double colon my function is undefined. So something is wrong, some error is coming. So that means you have to define this function, my function, inside this. So to define this, what you do is, so you have to create a function. That is what void my function and after that you have to say like this inside you have to, but remember this function will be part of this main. So I have to copy this much also here in front of this. So this is like main window, main window. Now inside this you have to create. So now when I execute this, see that there is no error, but when I click, nothing happens. Now for something to happen, let's say I have to message, I have to display message. That means in Qt nothing comes free. You have to really call a message box using a class. Now let's say how do you do that? Go to index, then you can simply type, you can get a help Q message box. When I went to Q message box, it is saying that there is a class called Q message box, and you have to see that you are going to use this. So that means what I am going to do is I am going to put it part of the program. See that I included this. I want to use this program. After that again, wherever I was, you are going to call. There are different methods and properties and functions of this. Let's say I want to call a function called set text. I want to put a message actually. So for this I will use this particular method set text. That means you have to pass a string of something. Q string is another class. It's like a string, and you have to pass it like this, the address of that. That means it is something like that. So what I can do is I can simply borrow that program here. This much only you have to write. See that this will do the job. So I control C I do, then I come back, and inside this I will put this. That means I have created an object called message box. Inside that box I am saying that I learn to click. This is what I said. I learn to click. So this much is not required. All these things are not required. So these are all some unwanted stuff. I learn to click. Something like that. So what I did is like I have created a function called my function, which was called from this H file, my function, like here, and when somebody clicks, it goes and executes. You can see that. I run this program, save. See that the button has come. You can see that, and I click on this. See, I learned to click. It has come. I learned to click. I learned to click. So this is the way you create a Qt application using Qtcreator. In the next class, we will go more in depth how to use Qtcreator in depth. And you know, one thing you should now see, what all files it created. Let's say I close everything, and let's see what all files it created while doing this. See, it has created, first was the project name I gave, similar to my first video. Here also it has created first.pro. Then there is another file which you don't have to worry, main.cpp. This is the same program is sitting here. You can see that in a notepad. You can see that. Then after that, the same program is sitting here. Then main window.cpp. You remember, actually we had the program of the slots and other things. So remember this my function I created here, but declaration of this function was written. Remember, actually here in this private slots I had defined my function. That is what called the main window.cpp. So everything is sitting here. So that means if I want to really open again the entire project, you have to simply remember the project name. You know, like you can double click on that. So right click, open Qtcreator, see it opens directly. So entire all things are coming back here, and you know, everything is remembered. You can rerun it like earlier. You can get the output. Okay, then see you in the next video. Thank you.